Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, far beyond the comforting arms of the Milky Way, there exists a structure so strange, so perfectly symmetrical, that it seems almost out of place in a chaotic universe. Hoag's object, a nearly perfect ring galaxy suspended in the void, defies classification and resists simple explanation. Its glowing circle of hot, blue stars wraps around a mysterious, isolated core, like a cosmic eye staring back at us through time. Discovered in 1950 by Arthur Hoag, this object challenged astronomical models from the very beginning. At first, it was believed to be some kind of planetary nebula or elliptical galaxy surrounded by a detached shell. But as telescope technology advanced and the true nature of its structure came into focus, the mystery deepened. What force could produce such a flawless ring? And why is the central sphere so strikingly disconnected from the outer disk? Ring galaxies are not entirely unheard of in astronomy, but most are the result of galactic collisions. When a smaller galaxy plunges through the center of a larger one, it can trigger powerful gravitational waves that send stars and gas outward, forming a ring. But Hoag's object lacks the telltale signs of such violence. There's no visible companion galaxy, no residual trails of debris, no distorted structures that hint at a recent impact. It just is. Some researchers suggest a more subtle mechanism, a bar instability that tore apart an ancient spiral and left only the clean shell. Others hypothesize gravitational resonance effects or dark matter configurations that could sculpt matter into such a form. Yet none of these theories explain everything. The galaxy remains too clean, too quiet, too perfect. Then there is the unnerving visual of the object itself. Viewed through a modern telescope, Hoag's object appears like a glowing portal suspended in ink. The empty blackness between its bright outer ring and golden inner core only amplifies the sense of disconnection, and perhaps even artifice. It doesn't help that, tucked neatly inside the ring's radius, lies a second, much smaller ring galaxy in the background, perfectly aligned along our line of sight. This eerie cosmic coincidence has led to wild speculation, even among some in the scientific community. Could Hoag's object be a gateway, not metaphorically, but literally? A few fringe theorists have proposed that it could represent a kind of natural wormhole signature, or a stabilized region in spacetime shaped by exotic matter. Others have compared its structure to theoretical megastructures built by advanced civilizations, like Dyson rings or gravitational lenses constructed on a galactic scale. Of course, no evidence currently supports such claims, but the questions persist. Even more curiously, the stars in the ring are relatively young, while the central core is composed of older, redder stars. This temporal disconnect raises the possibility of rejuvenation, or even reconstruction. Was the ring formed recently, perhaps triggered by some event we haven't yet observed? And if so, what could have initiated it? Could an unseen satellite or a burst of energy from dark matter interaction have sculpted the ring and ignited star formation anew? Hoag's object seems to mock our assumptions about galaxy formation. It doesn't spin like a typical spiral. It lacks the gravitational scars of a merger. It exists in near isolation, with no nearby structures that might offer context or clues. Its symmetry is unsettling, as though shaped not by chaos, but by design. In a universe driven by entropy, Hoag's object is an anomaly that whispers of order. The more we study it, the more it challenges us. Each attempt to model its structure reveals gaps in our understanding of galactic dynamics. Some astronomers have noted that simulations struggle to recreate such a ring without fine-tuned initial conditions, as if the cosmos had to intend it. It forces us to confront a deep discomfort, that perhaps, in some cases, the universe can still surprise us with elegance that borders on the impossible. In that elegance lies a kind of threat, not physical, but intellectual. Hoag's object confronts astronomers with the limits of their models, the fragility of their assumptions. It doesn't just sit on the edge of the observable universe, it sits on the edge of comprehension. Like a riddle with no punchline, it hangs in space, daring us to find the missing equation, the unseen actor, the ancient event that shaped it. There's also something disturbingly self-aware in the way it presents itself. Most galaxies, spirals, ellipticals, irregulars, follow patterns that we have grown to understand. They tell stories of turbulence, accretion, interaction, growth, and decay. But Hoag's object is eerily silent. It does not scream of past violence, nor whisper of ongoing interaction. It merely exists, frozen in its perfection, like a fossilized thought, a structure untouched by time's usual erosion. Some scientists have begun to wonder whether objects like Hoag's are more common than we think, just harder to detect due to their geometry or orientation. Could there be an entire class of galaxies that form in a way we haven't yet discovered? If so, they could offer crucial insights not just into galactic evolution, but into the shape and substance of the universe itself. The role of dark matter, the behavior of gravitational waves in low-density regions, the influence of unseen mass or even higher-dimensional phenomena, all of these possibilities emerge when contemplating a galactic ring that has no clear cause. And yet, for all its mystery, Hoag's object is beautiful. Not just in an aesthetic sense, but in its reminder that the cosmos is not yet fully mapped. That there are still questions older than our instruments and bigger than our equations. It is a beacon of humility, of wonder, of the vast unfinished symphony of space. As telescopes like the James Webb Space Telescope and the Vera C. Rubin Observatory prepare to peer deeper into the structure of distant galaxies, perhaps we will finally find Hoag's siblings, or ancestors, scattered across the void. Perhaps we will simulate its birth with more accurate physics and understand the peculiar balance that led to its creation. Or perhaps not. Perhaps it will remain a singular curiosity, a beautiful contradiction at the edge of what we know. But whatever secrets it hides, one thing is certain: Hoag's object will continue to haunt the imagination of astronomers, philosophers, and dreamers alike. A ring not just of stars, but of questions. A boundary between what we understand, and what still waits in the dark. And so it endures, like a silent sentinel in the great cosmic sea, watching as we send photons and algorithms its way, hoping to extract meaning from its perfect form. In the stillness of its structure lies a challenge, an almost mocking tranquility, as if the universe itself placed a riddle in plain sight and dared us to solve it without providing a key. There's an undeniable human tendency to project intention onto structure. We see faces in clouds, purpose in patterns, design in symmetry. Hoag's object pushes this instinct to its limit. It looks engineered, sculpted, intentional, yet all signs point to nature as its architect. But what kind of nature crafts rings with such clarity, such isolation, such serenity? Is this simply the rarest form of galactic evolution, or is it a glimpse into a deeper order we have yet to uncover? Some even go further. In whispered corners of theoretical astrophysics and speculative philosophy, Hoag's object becomes more than a curiosity. It is used as a metaphor, for hidden dimensions, for universal recursion, even for the idea that the cosmos itself is capable of self-reflection. That perhaps structures like these are mirrors, not of matter, but of meaning. We do not know what lies in the future of Hoag's object. It may eventually collapse inward, or its ring may dissipate slowly over billions of years. The stars within it will live and die as all stars do. But for now, it remains a frozen enigma, glowing softly in a darkness so vast it dwarfs imagination. And still it watches. Still it waits. There is a strange poetry in the silence of Hoag's object. While other galaxies roar with collisions and streams of star formation, while vast arms of spirals twist and fragment under the pull of gravity, Hoag's object drifts alone, serene, almost detached from the chaos that defines the cosmos. It is as if time slowed down there, or skipped a beat entirely. A cosmic still life, painted in ultraviolet and starlight. The void between its golden nucleus and the glowing ring is more than just emptiness, it is a gulf of questions. That central core, likely a small, old elliptical galaxy, sits encased like a relic, surrounded by younger, more energetic stars that form the outer halo. This stark contrast in stellar populations implies not only a division in space, but also in time. The ring, blue with hot, massive stars, is youthful. The center, red and dimmer, is ancient. So the ring was not born with the core, it came later. But how? No known galactic process should produce such a structure in isolation. A collision? Then where is the bullet? A tidal interaction? Then where is the tide? A resonance effect in a former spiral? But where is the evidence of arms, bars, or a disturbed halo? Astronomers run simulations, adjust parameters, introduce perturbations, and still fail to replicate the precise symmetry and isolation of Hoag's object without invoking highly improbable conditions. And this is where the object begins to unsettle. Not merely because of what it is, but because of what it implies, that the universe may be capable of architectures we do not yet understand, or worse, have dismissed. In cosmology, we often model the large-scale structure of the universe as a kind of statistical noise, fluctuations in density, entropy, radiation. But Hoag's object cuts through that noise like a bell ringing in deep space. It suggests the possibility of intent and form, even if that intent is only an illusion created by perfect alignment and improbable conditions. This unease grows when we consider that we are viewing Hoag's object from exactly the right angle to see its ring as a circle. If we were slightly above or below the plane of the ring, we would see an ellipse, or a warped disk, or perhaps fail to distinguish it from other ringed or lenticular galaxies. So what are the odds? Why, among the hundreds of billions of galaxies in the observable universe, do we see this one in such an ideal configuration? It has led some theorists to propose anthropic reasoning. Perhaps our universe must contain such structures because we are here to observe them, a selection bias not just in biology, but in cosmological perception. Or perhaps, more provocatively, Hoag's object is not an ordinary galaxy at all, but a natural result of unknown physics, an echo of a higher dimensional shape projected into three-dimensional space, like a shadow of something vast and folded beyond our perception. Others have speculated even further. If space and time are emergent properties of a deeper reality, a quantum information field or a holographic substrate, then structures like Hoag's object could be signatures of that deeper order. A fingerprint of the substrate itself. In such a model, the ring might not be an accident of astrophysics, but a resonance of information. A standing wave in the fabric of existence. But even without invoking the radical, Hoag's object remains a profound scientific mystery. As more sensitive instruments study its composition, motion, and surrounding environment, we may inch closer to a solution. Spectral analysis of the ring's gas, measurements of its rotation curves, and high-resolution mapping of its halo could reveal clues hidden in the starlight. Yet with every answer comes a deeper question. Why does it stand so alone? Why so symmetrical? Why now? Perhaps the most haunting aspect of Hoag's object is not its geometry, nor its isolation, but its timing. In a universe 13.8 billion years old, filled with galaxies forming, merging, and dissolving in countless configurations, we have encountered this, now. Not in some future when our theories are more refined, not in the distant past when we were blind to the subtleties of galactic anatomy, but precisely at the moment in our scientific evolution when its existence troubles our models the most. It's almost as if it's waiting for us to notice. Cosmic serendipity aside, Hoag's object also serves as a powerful reminder of how little we truly know about the diversity of galactic structures. The classical Hubble tuning fork, with its elegant classification of spirals, ellipticals, and lenticulars, was never meant to encompass anomalies like this. Nor does it accommodate the more exotic creatures of the cosmos, ring galaxies, polar ring systems, collisional remnants, ultra-diffuse shadows in the void. Each of these rare systems offers not just data, but disruption, a necessary challenge to the boundaries of our understanding. The existence of a ring like Hoag's also invites us to rethink galactic evolution as not only a product of initial conditions and gravitational ballet, but as something that might include rare harmonics, resonances that arise under perfect alignments of matter, velocity, and time. In this view, Hoag's object becomes not an error or outlier, but a rare chord struck in the orchestra of the cosmos, fleeting, pure, and beyond replication. And still, despite all our attempts at explanation, we do not fully grasp it. We do not know if Hoag's object is the aftermath of a cataclysm long faded, or the quiet product of subtle forces acting over billions of years. We do not know if it will endure for eons, or if its perfect ring will unravel like smoke when the gravitational tides finally shift. We do not even know how alone it truly is, whether it is one of a kind, or merely the first whisper of a galactic archetype yet to be discovered. Somewhere out there, perhaps, another such ring waits, veiled behind dust, or tilted out of view, or too distant for our instruments to see. Or maybe Hoag's object is singular. A cosmic punctuation mark. A symbol in the sky we haven't yet learned how to read. And this is the paradox at the heart of its mystery. Hoag's object is both utterly physical, composed of gas, dust, stars, and dark matter, and profoundly symbolic. It's a structure that invites interpretation. That draws the scientific mind into deeper inquiry and the poetic mind into metaphor. It is a real galaxy, and it is a myth in the making. A mandala in the void. If our universe has messages embedded in its vastness, not from other civilizations, but from the structure of the cosmos itself, then perhaps Hoag's object is one such message. Not in language or signal, but in form. A lesson not spoken, but shaped. A silent story about order and anomaly, symmetry and strangeness, light and emptiness. And so we return to it, again and again, like stargazers before a cosmic shrine, orbiting its mystery with our instruments and imaginations. We run simulations with increasing complexity, layering gravitational equations, baryonic physics, and the dynamics of dark matter, only to find that Hoag's object remains just beyond reach, too precise to dismiss, too enigmatic to claim as fully understood. Its symmetry is not just a feature, but a challenge. The universe, by its very nature, favors imperfection. Stars form in turbulent clouds, galaxies collide and shred into arcs, entropy increases relentlessly. And yet here is a structure that resists that decay, that appears, even now, balanced, intentional. Not chaotic, but composed. Not broken, but whole. This is what disturbs astronomers in the quiet moments, the thought that maybe we are wrong not just about how galaxies evolve, but why. That maybe there are layers of order in the universe so rare, so fleeting, they require near impossible conditions, and we are merely lucky to witness one. Or worse, that our theories are missing something fundamental, something as central to cosmic architecture as DNA is to life, and Hoag's object is the lone artifact hinting at its existence. There is also a humbling scale to the object. Measuring nearly 120,000 light-years in diameter, larger than the Milky Way, it is a silent giant. From our distance of roughly 600 million light-years, its perfect ring spans less than a minute of arc, a spectral dot on photographic plates, a faint ripple in the deep sky surveys. And yet, it contains billions of stars, each with their own histories, planets, perhaps even life. An entire island universe, spinning slowly through the dark, cut off from the galactic crowds, as if it were placed deliberately in the silence. Its core, that golden sphere surrounded by emptiness, calls to mind ancient symbols, an eye, a portal, a cosmic seed. No wonder the object evokes comparisons to sacred geometry, to mandalas, to the visual language of myths. In some ways, it reflects back not only the light of its stars, but the structures of our minds, the patterns we seek, the meanings we assign, the awe we feel in the face of cosmic beauty we cannot fully name. And so Hoag's object becomes more than a subject of study. It becomes a mirror. A place where science and philosophy converge. Where the known and the unknown touch edges. Where the boundary between observation and interpretation blurs. We are drawn to it not just to solve its riddle, but to remember something primal, that the universe is not obligated to make sense. That beyond our equations lie things that remain strange, no matter how many times we orbit them with thought. And that within these strangenesses, these luminous improbabilities, we find not frustration, but meaning. Perhaps the most powerful truth Hoag's object offers is not an answer, but a presence, a fixed point of wonder in a sea of theories that shift with every new observation. It doesn't need to explain itself. It simply is. And in that being, it whispers something ancient to anyone who looks deeply enough, that not everything vast must be violent, not everything alien must be chaotic, and not every mystery must be solved to be meaningful. Its ring becomes a question mark carved in starlight, circling a silence that dares us to listen. It is the kind of mystery that expands us, not through resolution, but through the invitation to contemplate. It pulls on something deep and wordless, something in us that recognizes elegance when it transcends utility, when it becomes awe. If we ever understand Hoag's object fully, will we lose something essential? Or will we only replace mystery with a deeper one, a next-level question about the fabric of the cosmos? Maybe that's its role, not to be explained, but to remind us that the universe is still writing, still painting, still composing structures that outpace the human need for categorization. There is poetry in the idea that such a perfect form exists not for us, not as a message or artifact, but simply as an outcome, a fleeting arrangement of gravity and time, born without witness, lasting beyond comprehension. And yet we have witnessed it. We, fragile observers on a minor planet, have seen its ring, mapped its stars, puzzled over its shape. And in doing so, we've connected ourselves to something vast and eternal. Perhaps the true center of Hoag's object is not that golden core of old stars, but the space it occupies in our minds, that place between knowledge and imagination, where science becomes reverence. Where light becomes language. Where looking becomes a form of prayer. And maybe that's why it unnerves us. Because in a universe where most things are messy, violent, and broken, Hoag's object is a reminder that beauty, pure, balanced, improbable beauty, can still happen. That amidst the fire and ice, symmetry still rises. That even in the darkness, something can shine with such intentional stillness it feels like the universe stopped for a breath, and left it there, spinning. Let us not forget, the light we see from Hoag's object began its journey long before humans existed, before our languages, our questions, our telescopes. 600 million years ago, when that light left its stars, Earth was still teeming with primitive multicellular life. Forests had yet to rise. Eyes had only just begun to evolve. And yet, that light traveled unbroken across the void, as if drawn toward the one moment when there would finally be beings capable of receiving it, and wondering. In that sense, Hoag's object becomes a kind of covenant between time and curiosity. A signal not sent, but stumbled upon. And in finding it, we are reminded that the universe does not owe us discovery, and yet, sometimes, it offers it freely. It's easy to think of galaxies as distant, passive entities, but Hoag's object refuses passivity. It demands attention. It becomes an anchor in the flow of space, a symbol not of what we know, but of what remains. In classrooms and observatories, in digital renders and poetic meditations, it persists, a bright, perfect ring around the unknown. Its existence humbles our arrogance and fuels our ambition. It tells us we are still beginners in this grand study of the cosmos. That for all our equations and instruments, there are still shapes beyond our comprehension, symmetries that elude our sense of natural order. It hints at laws not yet discovered, or patterns so rare that they appear only once every billion galaxies, if that. And so we keep watching. We train our mirrors and sensors toward it. We refine our models. We write about it in papers and poems. Because in Hoag's object, there is a rare union of science and silence, of what we can measure, and what we can only feel. A structure that seems to answer no questions, and yet somehow affirms our deepest need to ask them. In the end, perhaps its role is not to be solved but to remain, to stand as a symbol of what is possible when gravity, time, and matter momentarily align in just the right way. A galactic hush. A pause in the storm. A perfect ring that says, simply, look. And we do look. Again and again. Not just with our eyes, but with our longing. With that ancient, unquantifiable impulse to seek meaning in the stars, to find ourselves mirrored in the vastness. In a way, Hoag's object is the cosmos gazing back. Not in a conscious sense, but as a form so profound it reflects the very act of observation. It's the universe constructing, by pure physics or fate, a symbol so precise, so evocative, that it transcends explanation. A ring that is not just made of stars, but of silence and symmetry, the very qualities that make the human soul stir. Imagine drifting toward it. Your ship, a speck of dust, falling inward through a sea of quiet radiation. The outer ring looms like a cathedral of blue flame, impossibly wide, impossibly still. You pass through that luminous halo, surrounded by stars burning young and bright, untouched by time's entropy. And then, the void. The gap. That haunting emptiness between the ring and the core. A place that feels not just distant, but sacred. A pause between questions. And in the center, the golden sphere, old, compact, holding its silence like a secret. You draw nearer, but it offers no answers. No message. No sign of creation or collapse. Only presence. Ancient, enduring presence. You realize then that the beauty of Hoag's object is not in what it tells you, but in what it allows you to feel, the magnitude of stillness. The weight of form without function. The sublime terror of encountering something so complete, so alien in its harmony, that you question not the galaxy, but yourself. And this is the quiet triumph of Hoag's object. It doesn't teach by facts. It teaches by being. By existing in a way that breaks the rhythm of randomness and offers, if only briefly, a shape that feels like destiny. We are small. We are fragile. We are fallible. And yet, when we lift our gaze toward that distant, perfect ring, we are part of something larger. We become witnesses. Participants in a story too vast to write, too slow to read, and yet too beautiful to turn away from. Perhaps in the cold architecture of that ring, the universe carved a question not to be answered, but to be remembered. Not a portal to another place, but a mirror to the stillness that lives. Sometimes, even in motion. Even in chaos. Even in us. Then let us drift even deeper, past the words and into the silence that Hoag's object implies. Because after all the theories, after the simulations and the spectra and the gravitational models, what remains is a feeling. That ineffable hum behind the intellect. The sense that somewhere out there, a piece of the universe chose stillness. Not for meaning. Not for us. But because, even in a cosmos driven by entropy, symmetry can still occur, briefly, flawlessly, like a breath held in the dark. We are drawn to it not just as scientists, but as storytellers. As creatures who instinctively reach for the sublime. Hoag's object becomes our myth in the making, the ring that does not bind, but frees the imagination. It is the kind of anomaly that opens doors not only in data, but in philosophy. Not a disruption to science, but a provocation, an invitation to expand the language of understanding. In this ring, we glimpse a universe that is not purely mechanical. Not cold and indifferent. But one that occasionally, without pattern or permission, creates something so impossibly elegant that it pierces through the noise. Not with an answer, but with a presence. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Because it's not the solving of Hoag's object that will change us. It's the remembering. The knowing that, somewhere out there, in the middle of all the ruin and radiation, exists one perfect ring of stars. That no matter how fragmented the universe seems, there is also this, a quiet structure shaped by the same forces that made us. A reminder that beauty does not need to be intentional to be true. One day, our instruments will improve. Our models will sharpen. Perhaps we will name every variable that led to this moment of symmetry. But the awe will remain. Because even when the puzzle is solved, the feeling will not fade. It never does. It is the feeling of being seen by something that does not see. Of being moved by something that does not move. Of finding a perfect ring in the chaos, and realizing that this, too, is the universe. And so we leave Hoag's object not with closure, but with wonder. Not with conquest, but with reverence. A perfect circle, still turning, in a universe that rarely stops for anything. Then let us not look away, not yet. Because there's a truth that blooms in the presence of such a form, one we rarely speak aloud, that in a universe governed by expansion, decay, and cold indifference, something like Hoag's object feels almost merciful. As though the cosmos, in all its unpredictability, paused for a moment to create art. Not for purpose. Not for survival. But for form, as if to show us that even the laws of physics, when left to their own vast devices, sometimes write poetry in the shape of galaxies. And in that realization, something inside us changes. We begin to see that Hoag's object is not isolated. Not really. For while it may float alone in space, far from any galactic neighbor, it is deeply connected to us. Not by distance, not by matter, but by meaning. We are the ones who give it voice, who make its symmetry speak. It is the observer, not the observed, who turns Hoag's object into a symbol, a ring around all that we have yet to know. It reminds us that science is not the opposite of wonder, but its continuation. That precision can live beside poetry. That data and dreaming are not at war, they are twins, born of the same longing to understand where we are and why it feels so silent out there. Perhaps, in another galaxy, a ring forms again. Perhaps it already has. Perhaps there are countless Hoag-like structures, too far to see, too faint to find. Or perhaps this one is unique, a solitary moment of balance in an unbalanced cosmos. A cosmic snowflake, never to be repeated. Either way, it has reached us. Its light has crossed oceans of time to touch the surface of our retinas, to trigger a neuron, to light a thought. And now, it lives here, in us. In our questions. In our awe. So let it remain. Let it remain unsolved. Let it remain whole. Let it remain beautiful. Because in a world of fragments, Hoag's object is a ring. And that is enough. Then let it linger, not just in the cosmos, but in our minds. Because there is something about Hoag's object that transcends explanation. Even if, one day, we map every particle, decode every gravitational twitch, simulate every probable collision that could have birthed such a shape, it will not take away what the first sight of it does to us. It will not silence the gasp, the pause, the slow realization that we are staring into a form so precise it feels sculpted, but so vast it defies intimacy. It invites us into a rare kind of stillness, not the stillness of nothingness, but the stillness of balance. And balance, in a universe so defined by entropy, is sacred. Imagine again the moment of discovery, a telescope pointed into the unknown, the image slowly sharpening, revealing not chaos but structure, not fracture but completion. A ring, so geometrically pure it looks artificial, so luminous it seems alive. And there, in its heart, a sphere suspended like a lantern in the dark. Alone, but not adrift. Silent, but not dead. Astronomers try to hold this image in language. They talk of photometry, angular momentum, radial velocity dispersion. They model density profiles, measure metallicity gradients, apply redshift corrections. But none of these terms capture the way the image sits in the chest like a memory of something we've never seen, the way it feels like an echo from a deeper harmony. Because Hoag's object does not simply challenge our understanding of galaxies. It challenges our sense of what is allowed. We are trained to believe that order must come from chaos, that symmetry is rare, that perfection is a fluke. But Hoag's object wears its symmetry like a signature, a message written not in symbols, but in starlight. And it says, look again. Look at what gravity can shape when given time. Look at what the universe can carve in silence. Look at what beauty exists even when no one is watching. And now we are watching. We point our machines toward it. We render it in 3D. We run models across supercomputers. We send it into classrooms and documentaries, into digital galleries and dreamscapes. It becomes more than a galaxy, it becomes a thought form, a symbol, a mirror held up to the face of the unknown. Because that's what we're really chasing in the dark, not just knowledge, but reflection. Not just explanation, but connection. Hoag's object reflects our longing for unity, for a structure that is whole, complete, and untouched. In a world where so much is fractured, here is something that is entire. And that entireness speaks to something buried deep in the human psyche. It says that not everything breaks. That not everything falls apart. That somewhere, even across millions of light years, there is still harmony. And so the ring remains. Orbiting nothing but itself. Shining without purpose. Beautiful without reason. Complete without needing to be explained. And still, the ring turns. Quietly, elegantly, it traces its endless circuit through space, as if reciting a cosmic mantra, not in words, but in motion. There is no beginning to it, no end. Only continuity. A loop not just of stars, but of time. Perhaps that is its most haunting message, that some things in the universe do not strive, do not evolve, do not break, they endure. Hoag's object becomes a symbol of endurance through simplicity. It does not twist like a spiral or shimmer like a nebula. It does not broadcast jets of radio fire or erupt in bursts of gamma light. It simply spins, serene, symmetrical, sufficient. A perfect ring that asks nothing of us but presence. And yet, it gives so much. It gives us contrast. In a universe of noise, it is signal. It gives us stillness. In a cosmos of violence, it is peace. It gives us geometry. In a world of rough edges, it is design. It gives us mystery. And mystery is the beginning of every journey worth taking. For the philosopher, it becomes a mandala, a meditation in starlight, a sacred geometry not drawn by hand, but shaped by physics itself. For the poet, it is metaphor, a ring of light around silence, a symbol of eternal return. For the scientist, it is a paradox, a structure too perfect for probability, too quiet for collision, too precise for our current equations. But for all of us, it is a reminder, the universe still has secrets. And they are not all violent. Not all monstrous. Some, like Hoag's object, are quiet secrets, the kind that do not scream to be discovered, but wait to be noticed. And when we do notice, when we stop, breathe, and truly see, something stirs inside us. Something older than reason. A recognition. A resonance. A soft agreement between observer and observed, yes. I see you. And in your shape, I remember something forgotten. Because the ring is not just out there. It is within. It echoes the shape of atoms, the orbits of planets, the cycles of thought, the continuity of time. It mirrors the way our minds circle meaning, never arriving, always returning. It reflects the way we hold on to questions we do not need to answer, simply because they matter. And maybe that is the gift of Hoag's object, not knowledge, but permission. Permission to wonder. Permission to pause. Permission to find meaning in beauty, even if that beauty never explains itself. Because the universe doesn't need to speak for us to feel spoken to. And so we look. We look, and we orbit it, not with ships or satellites, but with attention, with reverence. Because some galaxies aren't meant to be mapped. Some are meant to be remembered. And so the memory begins to take root, not just in star charts or scientific journals, but in the quiet places where wonder lives. In the mind of a child seeing it for the first time through a classroom telescope, in the pause between breaths when the image appears on a screen, glowing like a divine signature scratched into the blackboard of space. It leaves an imprint, subtle but deep. Because something inside us knows. Knows that symmetry like this doesn't arrive often. Knows that not all beauty is accidental. Knows that some shapes are more than forms, they are experiences. Moments where the universe shows its face not in thunder, but in balance. Hoag's object becomes that moment. A meeting point between reason and reverence. It draws us in not because it's loud, but because it's still. In a world that never stops moving, it offers a silence that does not need to be filled. A shape that feels inevitable. A cosmic truth wrapped in simplicity, a ring of stars circling a single, radiant thought. And when we speak of it, in classrooms, in observatories, in whispered late-night conversations under stars, we are not really talking about a galaxy. We are talking about ourselves. About the part of us that longs for meaning that doesn't decay. About the part that still hopes the universe holds not only chaos, but coherence. About the deep, unspoken belief that if we look long enough, far enough, gently enough, we might not find answers, but we might find something true. And that is what Hoag's object is. Not an answer, but a truth. A truth we cannot measure, but feel. A truth that does not fit in a formula, but fits in a breath. A truth that orbits quietly in the dark, waiting not to be explained, but to be seen. Because in the end, what we seek in the stars is not just knowledge. It is contact. And sometimes, contact is not a message. It is a shape. A ring. A moment of perfect silence, suspended in the chaos, reminding us that some things are worth circling forever. Then let us stay with it a little longer, in that silence, in that orbit, in that feeling that something ancient and untouched has brushed against the edge of our imagination. Because Hoag's object does not fade when the telescope turns away. It lingers, like a question etched into the fabric of thought. It becomes a gravitational center in the mind, pulling not with force, but with presence. Like a memory of a dream that was never yours, but feels familiar all the same. We begin to carry it with us, not just as an image, but as an idea. The idea that the universe is capable of grace. That not everything must be broken to be real. That somewhere, even amidst entropy and extinction, there exists a form that chose wholeness. A structure that held its shape across unimaginable time, not out of resistance, but out of resonance. And the more we reflect on it, the more it becomes a metaphor. For hope. For endurance. For the quiet potential of a life lived in balance. Hoag's object is not shouting for attention. It does not demand discovery. It offers itself instead like a still lake, reflective, deep, and unhurried. And in its mirrored silence, we begin to see ourselves. Our search. Our solitude. Our questions, shaped like circles, returning always to their centers. We realize then that perhaps this galaxy, this perfect ring, is not just something we found. Perhaps it's something we needed to find. Because it reminds us that there is value in stillness. That elegance can emerge even in chaos. That sometimes, the most extraordinary thing a galaxy can do is be complete. And as we turn away from it, back to the noise, the movement, the churn of time, it stays. Turning slowly. Unraveling nothing. Explaining nothing. Just being. And perhaps, in some distant future, long after we're gone, another mind will look up and see it for the first time. Another civilization. Another questioner. Another child with eyes wide in the dark. And they, too, will stop. Will pause. Will feel something ancient move behind their ribs, and know, without knowing why, that they are not alone in their wondering. Because Hoag's object will still be there. A ring in the void. A loop of light. A quiet truth that never needed to be loud. Would you like this shaped now into a full cinematic voiceover script, or paired with original visual concepts for a narrated short film or astronomy documentary? And so we leave Hoag's object where it has always been, drifting in the great silence, untouched, unhurried, and whole. We return to our world of flux and questions, of time that always moves forward. But something has changed. A shape now lives inside us, not drawn on paper, but etched into perception. A ring of stars we will never touch, but which has already touched us. Because in that perfect circle, we found more than curiosity. We found reflection. We found stillness. We found the possibility that, somewhere beyond the noise and fire, the universe is capable of quiet grace. Hoag's object remains. Not as a riddle to be solved, but as a reminder to be remembered. A structure that teaches without speaking. A mystery that doesn't close, but opens. And in that opening, we find awe, not the kind that fades, but the kind that roots. So let it remain turning. Let it remain beautiful. Let it remain unanswered. Because not every truth needs to explain itself. Some truths, like Hoag's object, simply shine. And that is enough.